What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to the second episode of All Elite Review here today on July the 26th, 2020. Where today we're going to be reviewing this past episode of AEW Dynamite, which was the 37th episode of a Dynamite-named episode. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So, as per the usual, we have Cody's open challenge for the TNT Championship to open the show. And this time around, his opponent was a highly regarded independent wrestler, Eddie Kingston. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, Eddie Kingston? I mean, this guy's a 20-year veteran on the independent wrestling scene. Most notably, a good friend of Jon Moxley's. And I think Kingston, if memory serves me correctly, wasn't Kingston a former Combat Zone Wrestling champion? I mean, he's 38 years of age. Yeah, he's worked in Combat Zone Wrestling, Ring of Honor. He was recently working for NWA. Take a look at his accomplishments. Yes, he was a former CZW heavyweight champion and a two-time World Tag Team champion with Joker and Drake Younger. Yeah, he's got a lot of different accomplishments. But yeah, he was a former Combat Zone Wrestling World Champion. So, there you go. And he's also really good friends with Jon Moxley. So, and one thing about Eddie Kingston is that he is a he's what you would call a hard-nosed, no-nonsense type of wrestler, and he has one of the best promos in the business. I mean, he was basically just spitting fire at Cody, and basically, and Arn Anderson for that matter, and he challenged Cody to a no disqualification AEW TNT Championship match. But Cody had to be the one to accept, and Cody basically went over to shit. I've already forgotten the announcer's name. God damn it. God, that is going to bug me now. Justin Roberts. There we go. Sorry, it took me a second. I have a bit of a brain fart. But he went over to Justin Roberts and said, yes, this will be a no disqualification match. So Kingston attacked Cody from behind to start the match. Cody managed to hit a disaster kick. And it looked like at some point during the match, Kingston may have tweaked his left knee. He was really, I mean, he was either selling it really good or he legitimately tweaked it. Kingston has been known to have a history of knee problems. So hopefully that's not a legitimate injury. But Kingston then brings out a bag of thumbtacks because, you know, no disqualification. And he powerbombed Cody into the thumbtacks after Cody tried to do a dense fire into the thumbtacks. But Cody managed to fight through it. And some of the reactions at ringside, I think, were legit because, I mean, this was legit thumbtacks going through Cody's back. And he was, like, bleeding from his arm and shit like that. I mean, it was pretty brutal, to say the least. And some of the reactions at ringside, like, oh, shit. But Cody managed to lock on a figure four leg lock after basically bitch slapping Kingston a bunch. And Kingston was like, fuck you, you know, and all that shit. But with the knee injury, Cody locked in the figure four leg lock for the submission victory. And this would not be the only semblance of hardcore wrestling that we would see in this show. But you know me, I love my hardcore wrestling, so I gave this match 3.75 stars out of 5. It could have lasted a little bit longer, and they could have done some other cool shit, but, you know, I thought it was a pretty good opening match, and it certainly played to AEW's strength, and it resulted in a huge ratings win over NXT. I mean, for this episode of Dynamite, I mean, let's look at, okay, let me look at what they had for Fight for the Fallen, just to give you an idea. Because Fight for the Fallen, you know, is their third consecutive, like, special pay-per-view style show. You know, kind of like how they had Bash at the Beach and Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rage earlier in the year, somewhere in that vein. But for Fight for the Fallen, they had 788,000 viewers, just shy of 800,000. With NXT getting 631,000. So that's a difference of a little over 150,000. Pretty good, right? And then we come to this episode of Dynamite. I don't know if it was the hardcore wrestling that really interested people, but this episode of Dynamite got an audience of 845,000. That's an increase of 60,000 people over Fight for the Fallen. And NXT barely cracked 600,000 people. I mean, AEW beat NXT by almost 250,000 people. That's a lot of fucking people. So, I don't know if it was because of the hardcore wrestling, but, I mean, this is why I think we should have a pseudo-hardcore division. And honestly, the FTW title that Brian Cage holds, even though it's considered a quote-unquote unsanctioned title, I think AEW should consider sanctioning it and making it like a, this is just a suggestion, but making it like a pseudo-hardcore championship, because the guy who, you know, created that title was Taz, of course. And during the broadcast where Brian Cage comes out and they show the nameplate, they actually change the color of Brian Cage's nameplate to reflect the color of the championship, which is, you know, orange and black, which is Taz's old colors from his ECW days and WWE days. So, in my opinion, I think they should make the FTW title a pseudo-hardcore title, much like they made the TNT Championship their, you know, television title, basically, because that's what the TNT title is. You know what I mean? But that's just my opinion. But then we have a pre-recorded promo of Jon Moxley, basically talking about his match with Brian Cage and saying, next time we face, I won't let go of the hunt. So there's that. And then we have a extended squash match with the number one ranked MJF taking on Griff Garrison, who we call Jungle Man, because Griff Garrison kind of looks like a taller version of Jungle Boy. So MJF cuts a promo on Griff Garrison talking about how he couldn't graduate finger painting. MJF's fucking great. And I think we're heading toward the inevitable collision between himself and Jon Moxley for the world title at All Out. Either All Out or Full Gear. I think those two are going to go at it. MJF hit a nice overhead belly-to-belly suplex. Then he starts grabbing a mic and telling everyone he's undefeated. And he started jamming the microphone in Griff Garrison's face and saying, say that I'm undefeated, you know, and all this other stuff. Griff Garrison actually pushed the microphone back into MJF's face and tried to do a schoolboy roll-up, the most devastating move in professional wrestling, but only got a 2 count. But MJF basically nailed him with a heat seeker, which is basically like a slingshot hanging pile driver in the ropes, and got the 3 count in the victory. I gave it 2.75 stars out of 5. Then they basically showed some pictures of Britt Baker having to have surgery on her nose. I think she had like a deviated septum or something like that. So basically Tony interviewed Britt Baker about her busted nose, how she became a role model, you know, that whole role model thing. Taz comes out next with Brian Cage and says that throwing in the towel was a business decision, and talked about how him and Brian Cage were arguing, how Cage almost fired him as his manager. And then Darby Allin comes out to confront Brian Cage because, of course, Cage, you know, basically did the majority of the injuries. That, of course, that whole spot where he put Darby on top of a smaller ladder and then threw him outside. I mean, that was pretty brutal. But when Darby Allin comes out, he gets blindsided by Ricky Starks. And the reason for this is on the episode of Dark, which came before this, the previous day, Darby Allin was in a match against Robert Anthony, and then Brian Cage came out and started attacking Darby Allin. And then Ricky Starks pulls out Robert Anthony and attacks him because, you know, Anthony was trying to stop Cage from attacking Allin. And then basically Cage and Starks double teamed Darby Allin, so that's why that was. So Ricky Starks came out and blindsided Darby Allin, and that was a pretty stiff shot from behind. I think Ricky was a bit too exuberant, and it actually resulted in a possible concussion for Allen, because he got hit from behind and he kind of bounced off the ropes, and you can kind of see that really, it looked like it really stunned him. So it's kind of like, ooh, that didn't look very pretty. Then John Moxley comes out with a barbed wire ball bat to run Starks and Cage off. You can see Allen was kind of still hurting a little bit. Those two are scheduled to be in a tornado tag match on this coming episode of Dynamite against Cage and Starks. But with Allen possibly suffering a concussion, that's kind of up in the air. And then at this point, AEW announces, of course, the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament, the Deadly Draw. I really hope this is not a tournament to basically put over Allie and Brandy Rhodes. You know, because if this tournament was created just to put those two over, I'm going to be really fucking pissed off. Because, you know, Allie, she's an okay wrestler, but Brandy Rhodes, no. And then Alex Marvez interviews Jericho, who says that he will ruin Orange Cassidy and Jurassic Express, because Marco made some comments after the whole dunking of the orange juice the previous week. And then we have the match of the night. The Butcher and the Blade against the Young Bucks in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Basically a hardcore match. And the match actually starts in the kitchen with the Young Bucks going backstage to actually find them. And, you know, Butcher and the Blade were actually cutting up meat. And before that match, they actually said, oh, hold on, man, let's wash our hands real quick. And then the match began, and it was a barn burner. Butcher and the Blade had a double suplex on Matt onto like a metal table for a 2 count. Then the fight spills into an AEW trailer, it looked like. Matt hit a flying somersault splash out of the trailer onto Butcher and the Blade. Blade got sent to a plexiglass window. Butcher was taking cookie sheet shots to the face. Young Bucks hit a super kick party on the Blade, and he actually got knocked onto like one of them escalators, which was pretty funny. The match spills back into the ringside area. Blade hits some chair shots. Matt actually had diamond dust on the Blade, and Nick hit a plancha off of the banister onto Butcher, where the ringside seats were. Then Butcher hit a double suplex on both the Young Bucks. Basically, he took both Young Bucks and suplexed them both, which was pretty impressive. Blade misses a plancha, which looked like it hurt. But Butcher crossbodies Matt into a table that was kind of set up at an angle on the guardrail. Young Bucks with a sharpshooter and a crossface on the Butcher, but was broken up by the Blade. Butcher and Blade do a powerbomb neckbreaker combo on Matt. Then both teams start fighting onto the stage. Young Bucks hit a BTE trigger on Blade and a super kick party on the Butcher, putting them both onto tables that were set up at their entranceway by both Butcher and the Blade. And then both Young Bucks climbed the entrance tunnels and both hit simultaneous flying moves. Matt hit a dynamic elbow drop, and Nick hit a swanton bomb on the Blade through the tables and got a 3 count for the victory. While this was a damn good match, and I will easily give this match 5 stars out of 5, this did result in some injuries. According to reports, when Matt did the elbow drop through the table onto the Butcher, the leg of the table jammed into his knee. And apparently Nick was also kind of the worse for wear after the swanton bomb. And the Butcher and the Blade didn't come out of it uninjured either, from what I heard. So this match really took a toll. Even though it was a damn good match and fun to watch, it still took its toll on both teams. And then there was a segment backstage with Lance Archer destroying jobbers in the locker room, which I thought was pretty funny. And then we had a much anticipated women's match between Diamante and the debuting Eve Elise, which I've been saying for quite a long time that they needed to sign to AEW, and they finally bring her in. And while this match was kind of sloppy at times, I think it was due to overexuberance, much like the Lucha Brothers and FTR. I think it was mostly due to overexcitement because, you Ivelisse was finally getting a chance to wrestle on a big stage. You know, highly regarded indie wrestler, 16-year veteran. You know, multiple championships. You know, the whole 9 yards. And one thing I will give credit to Diamante and Ivelisse is that these two are hard strikers. I mean, they were going at each other with chops, kicks, you know, and all that other shit. And one thing that they also brought to the game that the women's division really needs is intensity. You know, these ladies are willing to put their bodies on the line, you know, to get over with the crowd. What I didn't like was this Big Swole promo that they decided to put into the middle of this match, like in a picture-in-picture, and it's just like, what the fuck, dude? We're trying to watch a highly anticipated match between Diamante and Ivelisse, and you're gonna throw this shit in here? Why not wait until after the fucking match before you do that? That was fucking dumb, in my opinion. But, yeah, both were going at each other with heavy strikes. Diamante hit a nice German suplex, got a 2 count. Ivelisse had a nice blue thunder bomb, only got a 2 count. And then Diamante with a surprise small package and got the 3 count and the victory. But I still enjoyed this match quite a bit, even with some of the various small botches that they had. Again, I think due to overexuberance. But I gave this match 3 stars out of 5. And this coming Wednesday on Dynamite, because of her victory, Diamante is going to be going up against Hikaru Shida in a non-title match. Why a non-title match? Well, she's not even ranked. I'll put it to you that way. Yes, she's won her last 2 matches, but I mean, she's 2-3 right now, so she needs a lot more than that, you know, to receive a championship match. And then our next match is Alan 5 Angels, a guy who I've, you know, been saying really needs a good push, against Hangman Adam Page in his first singles match of the year, believe it or not. Saw great agility by both wrestlers. Dark Order comes out onto the ramp to watch the match. Hangman hits a nice pump handle fallaway slam for a 2 count. And then an elevated pop-up powerbomb. He usually does the pop-up powerbomb, but this time he kind of did like a last ride variation and got the 3 count and the victory. Brody Lee comes out and offers Page a spot in the Dark Order, but Page turns him down by saying, I'm not really ready to join a cult right now, which pisses Brody Lee off, and he basically sends the Dark Order to attack Page, but then FTR comes out to clean house. They come down with like a whole thing full of beer, and they just smash him with it. And Omega also comes down, although he's a little bit late to the party. But yeah, FTR and Hangman Adam Page are starting to kind of blossom into a trio, you know what I mean? Because, you know, they're drinking buddies. You know, FTR loves a good beer, and you know who else loves a good beer? Hangman Adam Page. So, you know, the camaraderie between those 3 is really starting to show itself. So, I think we're definitely heading toward an inevitable split between Omega and Page, and they're actually defending the Tag Team Championships this coming Wednesday night against the Dark Order, who are #1 ranked. And that's going to be a pretty big match because Evil Uno and Stu Grayson have not lost this year as a tag team, and Omega and Page have not lost this year as a tag team. So if you want a case where you don't know who the fuck is going to win, this is it. I mean, we could see a major swerve going on right here this coming Wednesday night, where we see Uno and Grayson sneak out a victory and win the tag team championship. So this is one of those cases where it's like, oh fuck, what the hell is going to happen? You know what I mean? And then we have our main event, which was a tag match between Jurassic Express and Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. This was a pretty good match. Mainly saw Inner Circle working on Luchasaurus's foot, kind of focusing on that to try to set up for Hager's ankle lock. The finish to this match was Serpentico, or someone disguised as Serpentico, using Jericho's ball bat, Floyd, on Luchasaurus, and Jericho hits the code breaker for the 3 count in the victory. I gave this match 3 stars out of 5. It was alright. But then afterwards, the Inner Circle started beating down on all 3 members of Jurassic Express, including Serpentico, who had a nice shooting star press on Luchasaurus. And the other members of the Inner Circle are like, what the heck's going on here? And then when you see the camera pan up to his face, you kind of see his eyes. It's kind of like, Oh, we know who the fuck it is. And he pulls the mask off, and of course, it's Sammy Guevara, who, I guess he's gone through his sensitivity training and completed it satisfactorily, so he's now back on AEW television. I'm pretty sure there were some people like, why is he back on television? You know, he served his punishment. You know, let's just leave it at that. You know, why get so worked up for something that happened 4 fucking years ago? Like, how about you start living in the fucking present, you bunch of dumb fucks? Like, I get so sick and tired of that shit. This cancel culture nonsense bullshit, it needs to die. It really does. But with the Inner Circle completed once again, they start beating down on Jurassic Express, which brings out Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends to ringside to run off Inner Circle. So we're going to have a massive 10-man tag match this coming Wednesday night on Dynamite with the Best Friends and Jurassic Express teaming up to take on the Inner Circle. That's going to be a hard one to follow, I'll tell you that much. But another good, solid show by All Elite Wrestling, another great episode of Dynamite. I got yet another stacked show this coming Wednesday night. You know, of course, Cody with his open challenge. You know, a lot of people are like, hey, you know, we want to see Cody take on this great, highly regarded indie wrestler known as Warhorse. Well, guess what? You're getting it this coming Wednesday night. And it'll probably be the opening match, but there's been a lot of talk about how impressive wrestler Warhorse is. Now, a lot of fans have apparently been requesting that match against Cody, and they're going to get it for the TNT Championship. And then you have the tag team titles on the line. Diamante going up against Hikaru Shida. The 10-man tag match. I mean, this coming Wednesday night is going to be loaded. And assuming that Darby Allin's able to go ahead with this match, he's going to be in a tornado tag match, teaming with Jon Moxley against Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. A Texas tornado tag match. I loves me some tornado tag matches. So if Darby Allin's able to compete, that'll be a barn burner, to say the least. But another great episode of AEW Dynamite. My final rating for this show, solid 7 out of 10. I thought it was good. So AEW just continues to roll. Despite the fact that, you know, we have this pandemic going on, they're still getting a pretty consistent audience, you know, and they're back up into the 800,000 range. You know, we got another loaded show this coming Wednesday night, so they just keep on rolling. But that's going to do it for today's edition of All Elite Review. You got a double-decker edition today. Back-to-back episodes, basically. Because I missed last week because I wasn't feeling very good. But there you go. We're all caught up as far as AEW is concerned. And we roll right into this coming Wednesday night, which is the final Wednesday show of the month of July before we roll into August. And as we steamroll towards All Out in September. So thank you very much for watching. Here are my updated rankings. And until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. See you later. You better like and subscribe or face the consequences.
You have been warned.